by the tent that we had set up in the backyard of the police station as our sort of supply tent, and there was hot soup and food out there. The stacks of food that came in there from just members of the public that were just going, oh, my house is wrecked and this and this and this, but God, you guys are doing a good job. Here's some biscuits, here's some sandwiches, can I come and help? The army guys talk about standing on cordons and somebody wandering out at 2 in the morning going, you're probably cold, here's a basket of coffee and some biscuits, those sort of things. And this is what blew this commander of the USAR away, is that pretty much everywhere as he's been, he'd never seen that community spirit, that pride, that, hey, we're going to help each other come through. And that's something that we as Christchurch and we as New Zealand should be really proud of, is that when the chips were down, we stood tall, and we actually did really, really well as a country.
What it seems to me, if we look at all the very positive things, and folk, they're enormous. There's no question about that at all. Everything we have people here tonight have said is true. I live in the red zone. There's 3 people left in my house. We'll stay there until the people, my community, have left. My wife and I have made that decision. 400 of my students are in the red zone. 400 have to leave over a period of time, and we'll be the last ones to leave April next year. And the student army that came in, the farming army that came in, dug us out time after time. I've nothing but gratitude for it. But here's the big but. You see, to maintain that, there has to be a systemic change. There has to be a change, otherwise we will go back to, and my son's a copper in the North Shore. All power to the boys in the grill. I know the type of the quality of what they do. And everything that you've said is absolutely true, but we'll revert back to what was unless we accept there needs to be a change. And it's not a change, just an attitude, because that's transitory. When we go back to 2 mums and dads both working because it's necessary and so on, you know what's going to happen. It'll be out early in the morning, it'll be back late at night, and if you see your neighbour every now and again, that's pretty much how it will be. What we've got to ask ourselves is, what do we have to change so that the community is enhanced and supported and strengthened? When it's strengthened, the community policemen will become genuine buddies in the system. My view is, and that's why I began something of a tirade before, I think that you guys, us, me, we have to actually stand up and say we want a systemic change. And for me, in education, it means joining schools together. It means genuinely supporting each other. Supporting each other in a community is not predicated on competition between each other. It's based on friendship and support. It's not rocket science. So that's the voice that needs to be echoed. We've done real well in Christchurch, really well. I'm proud to be part of it, even though if I had my time over again, God, I wouldn't want to be through what we've been through. But I don't want that quality to be lost.
I think you're right, John, and it builds on your question, and it's how do we maintain and highlight the good things that have happened. A philosopher from the States once called it the search for the moral equivalent of war, because in war, just like in disasters here, there's a reason to pull together, there's a reason to stop going to class for several weeks because the university's closed, there's a reason to alter your normal patterns of life and check on your neighbors and do this and that. It's not necessarily sustainable at that level. However, how do you take that and then turn it into something that is sustainable and that does stick around? And I don't know that we have the answer to that. I mean, maybe some of the city blueprint reflects some of that, with some gathering spaces that might be more inviting than they used to be and that kind of stuff. I think there are systemic ways to do it. I don't know how to do it, but I think it's trying to maintain that. And there's a woman who's written a book about different case studies of disasters, and the title of her book is called A Paradise Built in Hell. And because what she's found is that after each disaster that she's looked at, there's a brief window of utopia. There's a brief window of equality and egalitarianism and all these good things, but it closes pretty quickly. And we saw that for sure in the States. I was there in the States at 9/11, and boy, there was a beautiful sense of things for just a very brief window of time, and it got taken in the wrong direction, right? So the things that were happening there got directed in a very different way than perhaps they could have. So I guess I'm questioning, how do we get that systemic notion beyond saying, well, let's chuck some money at Neighborhood Watch, or let's chuck some money at this or this and that. It's got to be more than that, and I don't quite know the answer to it.
I think it's creating a belonging within the community and having people who want to stand up and create that atmosphere to maintain that in their own little pockets of the community. But it's finding those people.
And I think you're right, and I think as a transplanted Kiwi American who's been here for 7 years, I kind of feel the right to critique both places. But I mean, one of the things that I've seen is perhaps there hasn't been enough acknowledgement among people within Christchurch about the positive things that have happened, and sort of owning them and saying, that's cool that we've done this, and we don't need to be humble about it, and we can be very proud of it, but now we need to figure out how do we solidify this and make it into something that takes us forward, because we can't go back to where we were. We don't want to. So how do we keep it moving?
Can I just say on that point, because I had lived a bunch of different places after the first earthquake. I didn't leave because of the earthquake, but I'd had other stuff to do, and then I returned back to Christchurch. And I returned sort of in December last year, and it was like a ghost town. There wasn't even sort of like a proper public transport system, and I was just like, oh, stuff this. Like, went to see my parents for like 2 days over Christmas, and then went back up to North Island. And but then I had to come back down in May, and what I really noticed a difference, like a lot of people were far more positive, and like you said, it seemed like a strong community, and you know, people seemed happier, and you know, there's a few more bars open, and I think what's really important to focus on is having things happen, especially for young people, like being able to go and socialise places and having options, and also jobs and homes and places to live in. You know, there's not many rental properties at the moment. I think instead of just rushing and throwing all the money into the rebuild like tomorrow, it's like you've got to, you know, get the jobs, get, you know, the places to socialise and build it like that in a positive way, so it's like stepping stones, rather than spend, like, you know, the government putting all their money into a brand new stadium with no one to fill it. It's like, doesn't really solve a lot of the problems at the moment, I don't think, from my perspective anyway. And just while I am talking, I'm doing new Christchurch Youth Markets. I hope most of you heard about it. It's every week on a Saturday afternoon from 12 till 3, but open day is this Saturday from 11. So please, everyone's welcome and come along if you want to. It's going to be fun.
It's on Barbados Street, isn't it?
Yeah, amongst the new youth hub.
Nice, yeah.
A great concept there as well, because there's a lot of support for youth there. So it's just filling in the gaps, like where's the niche, fill it sort of thing, yeah.
Where is it? Barbados Street.
Barbados Street. There's 298 Youth Town Centre is opening. Well, it's open now, but it's kind of like a celebration of that opening too. And that's just between Worcester and Gloucester. Yeah, so it should be a good day. It's Saturday. And youth get free stalls under 25, so if you know anyone that's under 25, they can have a free stall. If you're over 25, you can still have a stall.
I love what you guys evolved from what I asked you about what community involvement and leadership mean for you into this question of how can we give this sense of community longevity. Just to recap, could we quickly just cover that transition? What happened in the last 2 years? What made it all change? I mean, it was a natural event, wasn't it? Would we have gone that way? Would this ever have come up if we ever had an earthquake?
We've been looking at a concept called 20 seconds of courage, right? So the earthquake thrust us into a unique situation where people had to step up and people did fantastic things. But, you know, latent underneath all that, prior to the earthquake, so those people were still in our community and still capable of those things. And it's like tonight, you know, there's probably some people out there who've gone, I wish I'd asked a question. There's probably probably 20 seconds tonight when you've gone, oh, I've got a question, should I ask it tonight? Oh, the moment's passed. So we've been talking about this concept in our business of 20 seconds of courage. Say, well, am I going to let that 20 seconds pass by me, or am I going to take the opportunity and step up when I can? I think if we can inculcate that in all of our thinking, there's an opportunity, and I'm going to, without fear, go and say, here's what I think, or take this action, and 10 of them might fail, but one might be a fantastic success, and away we go. So, it's walking towards the fear. It's not letting those 20 seconds pass us by.
And actually, that's from that. I think one of the key things that anyone's had to do who's achieved anything is face fear. And I don't mean a physical fear of bungee jumping, which frankly is so not me. But any time in life that you want to do something, you want to push yourself, you want to go for something, it's scary, right? And there's I think it was Peter Blake who used to say, it's not scary, it's not worth doing, frankly. And I know for me it was like, well, do I sort of take this big leap into the unknown, which was standing for politics? And it's got to be one of the scariest things I've ever done, because you're putting yourself out there for all sorts of abuse and criticism and all that, fair enough. But it's, you face the fear, think, what, bugger it. I can either do this and run the risk of crashing and burning, spectacular failure, ego destroyed, or I can live my whole life thinking, I wonder if I could have. You know what I mean? And I don't know, if there was one thing I'd say is there'll be something that, like you were saying, there'll be something you want to do, and whether it's ask a question or something life-changing, it's always going to involve fear. And if we don't kind of push ourselves a little bit all the time, we'll get nowhere. And whether it's a physical courage and doing some of the really cool stuff that the Army and the Defence Force and the police do, or whether it's just having the courage to push yourself for something that maybe you wouldn't do. And particularly women, I think, actually. And one of the things I wanted to say is, you ask why we do what we do. Partly for me it's because I look at the women who went before me and must have had a hell of a job to get into politics and leadership roles. It's still not that easy, but if it wasn't for the women who'd done it before me, I could never have done it. And I sort of think we've all got to, play a part. But I think for us, we're not as good at men as saying, I can do that, and Margaret, I'm going to give it a go. And I think we've got to back ourselves a bit more and just, take the risk. Because if we think it's hard now, it was way harder for the people who went before us. And everything we do makes it easier for those who come after us. So, yeah, absolutely. The scary stuff is the good stuff. That's where you really make a difference.
I think there was an element of aspects of life. I very much believe in life as a sort of a process. You move through stages, and each stage has its own demands. For me, I became a grandparent, and that's powerful. I'm probably the only one here, but when you get to join the grandmother's club, cool, great thing. I became a grandparent. My father took a long time to die, but he finally passed away, and he was an old man, but that was significant. I have a strong faith. I made a mistake. I said to God, look, I'm running out of challenges. Bad mistake. Never do that. Once you cross into that territory, then you're guaranteed to get serious challenges. Along came the earthquake, and I began to say to myself, look, we live in a society that's compartmentalised. We've got old people sticking away in a corner. We've got young people sticking away in a different corner. Mum and Dad racing through every day just to make ends meet. We don't draw breath. We don't admire much that's going on around us. The earthquake came along, and it indicated very clearly that there was an opportunity here where people, in fact, hadn't changed very much, even from the very old days. We're still human beings, old people working with young people. I could tell you stories.